Hey everybody, and welcome back to Corp Stat Chat. What we're doing right now is going through the practice midterm that's coming up. The midterm is coming up this week, so we want to make sure that we review as much as we can. So in this video, what I'm going to do is just go through question 6, where we take a random sample of these radon levels. This is our scenario that we're talking about, and we're finding the standard deviation. So we're ultimately finding the standard deviation, but this is by hand. So this is no one variable statistics in your calculator. You can't get around it. We're just going straight from hand how to do this. So we're basically breaking apart the formula, which is down here, where we have our standard deviation formula of the sum of squares, which we'll find here, and we're going to divide that by n minus 1. Why n minus 1? Well, because it's a sample. It's a sample. So a sample, we do n minus 1. If it was an entire population, we would just do divide by n, capital N. So we're just going to go through here, and I'm just going to sort of type these in and talk about them as we go, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So let's get started. What we have here is our X column, and these are the headers that you're going to want when you're trying to figure out standard deviation by hand. And we have our X header, which is just our random variables here, or our random sample. Then we have our X bar, which is our mean. So X bar, let me just write a note here. This is the mean. We have our X minus X bar, which is also known as our deviation. Okay. And then we have our squares, so we're squaring our deviation. And then down here are our formulas. So we have X bar, it's the sum of X divided by N, which it's just how you normally calculate the mean of something, or the average. And then we have the sum of squares, which we're going to need when we do the sum of squares divided by n minus 1, and then take the square root. If we don't square root, that's actually going to be our sample variance. So standard deviation and sample variance, it's really only one operation away from each other. It's the square root. And why do we square root? We square root because we want to get it back to the original measurements after we square them. So if we're talking about feet here in the beginning, and then we square it, then we have area. And we don't want area. We want to go back to a linear measurement of feet. And that's why we square root. Okay, so enough talk. Let's just go ahead and do this. So if you would add up all of your X values in this column, add them all up, and then divide by the total number here, which is 8, we're going to get a mean of 4.53. 4.53, roughly. You can always round here, depending on where you round, gives you slightly different results, but at the end it should be very close. So 4.53 for our mean. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this down. So 4.53, 4.53, and so on and so forth. And again, we need our mean in order to calculate our deviation here momentarily, and I was trying to stall typing these in, but it's not working out so well. So, okay, so we have 4.53 as our mean. Now again, our deviation, our just regular deviation, is going to be our X minus our mean. So we're trying to find sort of this, not necessarily distance away from mean, but it's going to be the distance positive and negative. But distance is never negative, so, but we need the deviation to determine this. The difference, there we go. We'll talk about the difference between these numbers. So the difference here, we can calculate this out, and I'm going to go ahead and actually pause the video because you don't need to see me calculating out these differences. And then I'm going to actually just square them automatically, and then we'll talk about what we have here. Okay, so what I did was I found our deviation, or our difference between our X values and our mean. So I just subtracted those off, and I ended up getting these negative numbers. Now the problem with these negative numbers is that it doesn't work, right? If we add them all up, we're going to get something really close to 0, which doesn't give us much of anything. We're trying to find the average distance to the mean. So this is why we have to square it, because distance is always positive. So we go ahead and square our difference, our deviation, and we get our squared difference. Okay, when I sum all those up, I get the sum of squares, which is down here, which is 42.395. Okay, now we're just 2 steps away. What we need to do is divide by n minus 1. So instead of dividing by 8, like we would normally do an average, because standard deviation is just the average distance to the mean, we're first going to get this average squared distance to the mean. So I take 42.395 divided by n minus 1, which would be 7 in this case, and then I'm going to square root that, and once I square root it, I end up getting 2.461 as my final answer. Okay, so hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any questions, make sure you email me, and good luck on your midterm. All right, see ya. This is Mr. Korb on #KorbStatChat.